I don't depend on anyone to take me. I don't depend on a bus driver. I don't depend on a taxi driver. This absolute freedom of just grabbing my bike and going. I really just don't get why people don't bike.
This is Possible Lisbon, and today we're going to talk to Lucia, who has a very mixed background. You were born in Germany. You decided to move to The Hague in the Netherlands, and you have just spent 4 months in Cairo, Egypt. Could you maybe compare these 3 models of organizing urban space?
I would say Germany and The Hague are quite similar. Nobody beats the Dutch biking culture there, or public transport in general. Netherlands is just beautiful with biking. It's known and it's true. You have just beautiful bike paths. You have red lights that are geared towards bikers, so they turn green once you approach the traffic light. Egypt was a complete shock. You have some buses, but it's a 22 million people city, so it's a lot of cars, lots of honking, almost no sidewalks, or if you have sidewalks, it's like with holes and with poles in between and not really walkable. And I've seen some bikers there, but that is quite dangerous and only in a very specific area. So you cannot really navigate the city by bike, and it's just cars everywhere and chaotic, and you have 3 lanes and 5 cars drive on it. This was kind of a shock therapy. So coming back, everything seems so easy because navigating there is quite difficult.
Where would you place Lisbon?
The sidewalks, definitely more on the side of Egypt. I've noticed it's very small and cannot really walk. And I mean, one person can maybe walk, but 2 next to each other, not really. Not really bikeable as well, because there's just a lot of cars and no space. I mean, I would say in between Germany and Egypt, because the traffic here is not as crazy. Here at least you have traffic lights. That's something in Cairo that was absent. I haven't really seen a lot of bike paths around the city. In a few places, yes, beautiful and a nice asphalt.
What was it that made you fall in love with the Netherlands? It
was the general feeling of coziness of the city, of biking. I'm big biker, so I love that everyone had a bike. Everyone has at least 2 or 3 bikes basically. Like the small canals around the city and the architecture, everything seemed quite chill but productive. But really the biking as well, the lifestyle of, I love that still also in The Hague, just grabbing my bike, coming back from party at 3 at night, and I just grab my bike and go somewhere. I go to the beach by bike, everywhere by bike. I feel so free in my choices. I don't have to have a certain schedule where I have to catch the train or the bus. I just go whenever. I can go wherever.
For a lot of people in Portugal, freedom is associated with a car.
You can take the car and get anywhere, especially when you go out. I get that, but at the same time, you get your car and then there are traffic jams everywhere. I don't feel like it's very fast in the city of moving, and then at the end you always have the struggle of finding parking space, which is for me terrible just to think about it. Even though you get a place, at the end I always feel like I'm so stuck, because if everything is closed and there's no parking, what should I do? I cannot just put it on the street. So I feel like it's more of a limp on my leg. It's heavy. Whereas my bike, I can just go. I can go around the traffic jams, also get out real quick, just stroll if I see something. I love also exploring cities either by foot or by bike, because you can just stop literally anywhere and then walk a bit and then bike again and walk. You couldn't do that with a car. And then you can park your bike almost everywhere, and it's quick, it's easy.
A lot of criticism that we hear in Portugal is that, you're not thinking about the elderly, and the old people, they can't go around by bike. What has been your experience in both Germany and the Netherlands?
Sometimes I get overtaken by a 70-year-old grandma or something, or 80-year-old, just so fast. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then it's just her being on the e-bike. So e-bikes really is the solution, because I get that it can be very exhausting, especially Lisbon, going up and down. But if you have a e-bike, it should be easy. I don't know how good it is to drive in like very small and crowded places. I don't know if that is a better solution. So I think just public transport and biking. And my grand aunt, she is now 94, and until the age of 90, she was just biking, still taking her bike. She was either walking or biking because it's faster.
How would you fix Lisbon if you were its mayor?
Better roads, holes, just streets without cars, because it is quite annoying having a car behind you while you bike up. Having more places to store bikes. But in general, more the infrastructure of really having streets. If you want to keep the tram tracks, then to make a good path next to it. Or if they're close anyway, what they do in The Hague is they put in some rope so you cannot get into the whole of streets where you have the priority or no cars at all. That is definitely helpful.
You come from the car nation,
Yes.
Germany, and in Portugal, objectively, there is this absolute admiration for a German car. How do you see this as, somebody who is young and German and has lived in so many different places?
I mean, I also do know quite a lot of people who are my age back in Germany, like obsessed with cars. I really don't get it because I think it's expensive. All the taxes, all the fuel, I mean, and now the price is going up. And I have my bike. I don't even know how often I bring it to like the repair shop. That is like every 2 or 3 years. Isn't that's maybe a bit of money, but other than that, I have my bike. So I really don't get it. And I feel like a lot of young people also say, okay, I don't need a car, and if I need one to get somewhere, there are a lot of like shared car systems. So if they actually need to get something, I don't know, go to IKEA and get something back or something, they just rent it for like an hour or two. Maybe it's my bubble, but I feel like a lot of my friends and younger people are going more into like biking and public transport.
How would you explain cycling in the Netherlands?
We have traffic jams on the cycling path. So in the morning, for example, like around 9 or something, when the kids go to school, you see the parents take their kids to school on the bike. So you have the bike, the saddle, steering wheel. In between, you have a saddle for the kid. Then you have something for another kid in front and in the back. So sometimes I see a dad with like his 3 kids on one bike, biking to school, or a parent with a kid and the kid on its own bike and just biking to school. And then before school starts, it's really, we have a line of like 50 meters or something, people just waiting at the traffic light. You see bikers just always. There's not a time where there are no bikers. And of course, like, you have those rush hours before school and after work or something. Some are super speedy, some are chill, but you have good bike paths everywhere. I mean, okay, I'm also a student, so a lot of people don't have a car as a student, but I literally don't know anyone maybe one person, but with a car. Everyone is biking.
One person with a car.
Everyone is biking, and nobody's thinking of not biking. I mean, if it rains, and that it rains a lot in the Netherlands, some of my flatmates, for example, they take the bus, but a lot of my friends, even if it rains, we just take the bike, raincoat, all good, because you're so free, you can leave to any hour, because also sometimes it's a problem with like when are last trams going home, and when you're at the friends, you're having like I don't know, chill evening, you don't want to have to go home because the last tram is leaving. So yeah, having the bike, it's super chill. I remember in summers, it's always funny when we go to the beach, we bike to the beach, and the most difficult part is to find a parking space for your bike, because it's so crowded and you have like 1,000 bikes just like next to the beach on like any place.
Now that you've spent 4 months in Cairo, and from what you told me, you could not cycle there. So how would you describe kind of the opposite really of this idyllic world that the Dutch have managed to build for themselves? And how How can we explain that this is not the way we want to go?
I felt like I lost my agency, to be honest, because Cairo is not really walkable or cyclable. For me, this absolute freedom of just grabbing my bike and going. So often I just wanted to take my bike and go to a cafe and sit in a cafe and have a chill time. And I was always depending on either Uber or bus. But then, walking to a bus is already like a struggle because you have to cross a street with like 5 lanes without any street light and people driving crazy. I always say biking, I'm so independent. I don't depend on anyone to take me. I don't depend on a bus driver. I don't depend on a taxi driver. I go, and if I go at 2 p.m. or 2.5 a.m. it doesn't matter. The absolute freedom. And it's fast. I mean, compared to walking. I was walking Lisbon, and it took me so long to get somewhere, and then we were biking the same way, and I was like, oh, that was like 10 minutes, that's so chill. And then you can easily like stop on the way, be like, oh, I gotta get some groceries or something. And then compared, if you sit in a tram, you have to get out the next stop, and then you have to walk back. And if you're in a car, you can often not really stop because there's no parking space. So I don't know, it's just, I really just don't get why people don't bike, because for me it's like the absolute, like, yeah.
Have you traveled far on your bike? So maybe 1 or 2 week trips that you might want to share to inspire people who already cycle to actually do it?
Kocher Jagstweg, which is a path around 2 rivers, Kocher and Jagst. And it's beautiful because it takes you around all those like cute little German villages. Really good bike paths. You also have the signs, so it's very clear where to go. No cars, and you just like go and go and go, and you have nature around. So that's really beautiful. It's almost like meditation for me because you have time to think about things and still move. Like you have this movement, which I love. It gives your body energy. One of my friends is doing a biking tour now from Berlin all the way to Cape Town in South Africa. So they've been biking through Europe and are now in Egypt, actually, going through now Africa. And another friend, she's biking with a friend from through Portugal and Spain, visiting like eco villages and just taking the bike as a transport. It is pretty doable, and they said it was, especially in northern Italy, was the best bike path they ever had. So something I also didn't know.
For you, after your experience in North Africa, Europe is the place of cute cafes and bikes.
Yes. So first of all, the cafes is just like a cozy place where you feel at home, but you also have like the world open and new people coming, and you can be in a cozy corner and read your book, or you can look out and see the people pass by, and it's just this feeling and smell of coffee, and it's just, I don't know, it's so cozy. And so often it's also like a retreat when you're stressed at home and you say like, okay, I need a break, I take my book and go and read in a cafe. And yeah, and the best way to get there is to bike. So I often in The Hague had this when I was so done studying, and I was like, okay, I need to get out, and yeah, I would just go to a cafe, and of course I would go by bike. It's so funny because for me it was not even something conscious. Like that was so normal. Like the way I grew up, I was always biking to school. I don't get why anyone would not do it. It's so normal to me, and then also in The Hague everyone does it. So I never really thought about it until I went to America and also in Egypt, and there you don't really have good public transportation, and then especially no biking, and I really, really, really missed it so much. And that was when I really got conscious about it. I was like, oh, it's actually not something everyone does. It's the biggest part of my life. I bike every day, always. Sometimes I bike like 20, 30 kilometers just to go to the beach, and it's so normal to me.
Your message to all the bike activists here in Lisbon?
More bike demonstrations. Bike together, ring our bells, and show that it's important. Motivate others. Motivate your roomies, your family, people around you. The more people that bike, the more it becomes important. Demand better streets, demand better infrastructure. Biking brings so much joy and it keeps you healthy. you have those very delicious treats here, but you know, it's good to cycle them off again at one point. And it's just a very different way of experiencing the world. I've noticed that when you're on the bike, you smell different things, you see different things. It's not really explainable.
Please do subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so, because this is the way for us to tell the YouTube algorithm that this is important. Please also share, put a like. The more of us know about the beauty of cycling, the better infrastructure we can then demand from our politicians. Lisboa é possível.